Hello and welcome to Game Theory. I'm your host, Sam Vicini. Today, we're going to be breaking down Zion Williamson tape. Why are we doing a Zion video this early in the season? Well, really, I'm just curious to see what Zion looks like as much as anything. So I've been watching a decent amount of Pelicans. And honestly, I think that Zion Williamson has a case as one of the most important players in the NBA. And if you think that's an exaggeration, it's not. I mean, this was a prospect coming into the league that was seen as a potential generational talent. And his production matched up with that terminology early in his career. I really can't remember a player in his second season that was quite as dominant as Zion Williamson was. Additionally, you look at the Pelicans last season when they surrounded him with a really interesting core led by CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, and of course, Brandon Ingram. This was a team that was best in the Western Conference up until the time that Zion Williamson got injured. So I do really think there's a case that Zion Williamson is one of the critical swing guys in the league this season. So to break down his tape, we're going to dive into a game from earlier this week against the Denver Nuggets. Zion Williamson had 20 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists in this game, only 1 turnover. A really, really productive, fascinating game, but he took 22 shots to get those 20 points. And this was a guy that was genuinely among the best players we've ever seen in terms of pressure at the basket in his second and third, which was his fourth post-draft season in 2022-23. Remember, he shot right around 61% at the rim, was deriving about 10 shots at the basket per game in half-court settings. Just absolutely ridiculous, historically relevant numbers. This season so far, Zion Williamson, prior to the Houston Rockets game that got played last night when this video gets released, was shooting only 49% at the rim. So we're going to talk about a few different factors that I'm seeing. First and foremost, it's really important to note that the Pelicans are a team right now that does not have a ton of floor spacing around him. They're down to rookie Jordan Hawkins and undrafted free agent Matt Ryan to come in and provide real floor spacing for the team after CJ McCollum was diagnosed with a lung issue, and then Trey Murphy has missed the entire start of the season due to an injury. Those are the two most important floor spacing guys that the Pelicans can surround Zion with. But I think another piece of what we're seeing is that at least early on, Zion Williamson is not quite as athletic as what we've seen from him in the past. He has the power, he has the quick jump off the ground, but he isn't quite as vertically poppy and explosive as we've seen from him. And that could change throughout the course of the season. Zion does tend to be a bit of a slower starter, and missing a significant portion of last season, could be getting himself into game shape. Or we need to kind of talk about, could this be a reality for Zion Williamson? It's way too early to say that, but it's worth discussing based on the tape at this point, based on what we've seen, given how important Zion Williamson is league wide. So with all of that table setting, let's jump into the tape and discuss what I'm seeing from Zion Williamson so far. So Zion Williamson here. This is the first quarter, about 10 minutes left against the Denver Nuggets. And you're going to see Zion defending Aaron Gordon here. There have been some good aspects of Zion defensively. There have still been some not so great aspects of Zion defensively this season. So this one here, you're going to see he's the low man now around this ball screen. And this is just a really bad defensive clip, unfortunately for Zion. You would really, really love to see him just get there earlier. I think the fact that he ends up there a little bit later and kind of has his body turned. He's actually not that late looking at it, but he has his body turned here. And look, Nikola Jokic, this guy is a real issue for everybody. There isn't a person on the planet that can stop Nikola Jokic right now. But I don't really know why Zion thinks he can go for this steal against Jokic. He is very far away. This is just kind of an example of Zion's defensive willingness to gamble that often hinders his team. I mean, this is an enormous amount of ground by the time that the decision is made here by Reggie Jackson to throw this pocket pass, right? Like, this is way too much ground to cover. This is just a poor decision from Zion. Results in a foul and one because Nikola Jokic is the most talented basketball player on planet Earth. Can't happen if you're Zion Williamson, right? So next one here, Zion Williamson going to be right here running a two-man game with Brandon Ingram on an empty side. What are we looking at now? We've got Jonas Valanciunas above the three-point line here, obviously being guarded by Nikola Jokic. Jokic is just going to completely ignore him, which is a real strategy on these empty side ball screen actions. When you have a big not involved in the action who isn't a guy that teams are worried about spacing the court. Jonas has had some success knocking down spot threes throughout the course of his career recently, but he's not a guy that you're worried about out there either. If he makes a three, you're probably pretty comfortable with that. And you're comfortable trying to rotate around it, I think, as much as anything, given how long it takes him to load into the shot. So here, the way that the Nuggets are guarding this is they're already shading way over with Jokic, trying to overload this empty side. Typically, what an empty side action does is it isolates this man and forces him into a really, really difficult position. But because Jokic is already here, that isolation is not really existing. So what happens here, I love how Brandon Ingram kind of strings this along. And I love how eventually Jonas Valanciunas rolls in to occupy Jokic, right? So when he occupies Jokic, and when Brandon Ingram just kind of strings these guys along, and forces, I believe that's Kentavious Caldwell Pope and Aaron Gordon. It's a little bit tough to tell with the headbands for the Nuggets. What you're going to see here is that Zion steps in inside the three-point line to take this pass, and he's already moving downhill, right? This is where Zion is so effective. He's so effective if you can get him the ball when he's already going downhill. So instead of driving to the basket here, and this is just a prime example of the force of Zion Williamson's gravity on an opposing team, you've got Jordan Hawkins here, who is a tremendous shooter. That is the whole reason that the New Orleans Pelicans drafted Jordan Hawkins, is because of his elite floor spacing ability. And you understand why, looking at Zion Williamson in terms of his gravitational force and his passing ability, right? So here, because Zion steps in, you see here, this has to be a help. If you don't get a body on Zion immediately, it's curtains. It's totally over. And because of that, what you're going to see is this is going to leave all of this open space for Jordan Hawkins to be able to step into a catch and shoot three. Zion, by the time he catches this pass, is already looking. He hasn't even landed off of his jump stop, off of catching this pass, right? And he's already looking, either he's trying to see cross corner for if Michael Porter Jr. is deciding to sky all the way up. You can see here as well, this is a really sneaky thing that Jonas Valanciunas does really, really well. He's already trying to get a body on Jokic for if Michael Porter Jr. decides to slide all the way up there, which means that this is going to have to result in an X out very, very far. That's a very far rotation to be able to get to Herb Jones. Herb Jones, not a great shooter, but a guy that can hit a spot corner three if necessary. But because Jonas is getting a body on what would be typically your X out player here in Nikola Jokic, and I realize I'm using confusing colors here. I'm sorry about that. This would typically be an X out for Jokic out to Herb Jones if he decides to make that corner pass, if Michael Porter Jr. shoots all the way up. But because Zion already sees that Porter is staying home here until he makes his decision, this is just an easy read there to Jordan Hawkins. He forces this long closeout here out to Hawkins onto his man. It's just an example of Zion Williamson's gravity and an example of his quick decision making, which is something that I think throughout Zion Williamson's career has gone really, really underrated. I think he actually is a really, really good passer. And if the athleticism is going to be diminished in any way, continuing to utilize that as a gravitational force is going to be essential for Zion Williamson. And I think that if you look at his past few games that he's played, he's actually really started to utilize that passing ability to a high level. This is just a beautiful quick read out to Hawkins. You would expect him to drill that. I think Hawkins had like 8 threes in this game and had 30 points. He was tremendous for the Pelicans, and you'll see that throughout the course of this tape. Okay, next one up here. Zion. This is 19 seconds left on the shot clock. We're in transition. Zion Williamson has come down the court, and we're going to set up shop here on the block, right? We're going to try and get Zion isolated on Aaron Gordon here. And to me, this is just kind of an example. A, Aaron Gordon's a great defender. I don't want to take anything away from Aaron Gordon, but B, I just don't know that Zion has quite as much juice as what we have seen from him physically or as much speed. Typically, in my opinion, you used to see Zion be able to get all the way to the rim here. This ends up being kind of a fadeaway, and this is a great defensive possession by Aaron Gordon. Again, I don't want to give him, I don't want to shortchange him. He does a great job on the block here, a super strong physical defender. But those Zion drop steps used to be absolutely lethal to be able to get here. And if he drop steps and like can get all the way to the basket, he's either going to finish at the rim or he's going to force the Jokic help, which would allow an easy little dump off to Jonas, or depending on what Michael Porter does here, an easy corner kick out. But instead, this is a tough shot. This is a contested mid-range jumper from Zion. This is not an easy look. In general, to me, it feels like Zion Williamson and the distance that he is taking shots from this year is just a little bit farther out right now. And that's okay. It's something that you can see, but we need to account for this. And the Pelicans need to account for it in some way. This is an empty side. This doesn't really have anything to do with spacing. They don't really double. This is one where you would just expect Zion to be able to get to the rim, and he doesn't. And you also wonder too, I feel like Zion would typically face up for longer in situations like this previously. I don't feel like he would go directly to like body on body contact. And again, honestly, you probably just shouldn't be running this against Aaron Gordon, in my opinion. Aaron Gordon is a great defender. I don't love just isolating Zion on Aaron Gordon. If you want to try and do different things, try and get him the ball in space, which is something we're going to talk about here later on, above the break, at the elbow, things like that against different guys. I'm pretty comfortable with that. But getting him the ball where he's not really on the move, is going to have to change direction to get all the way to the rim eventually. Not an awesome idea, in my personal opinion. Results in a tough shot early in the shot clock. I just wonder, what we're talking about here in terms of physical Zion limitations at this point in the season. Right now, that could definitely change as he continues to work himself into shape and game shape, particularly. Next one here. You can see the way that the Nuggets are setting up. Zion is here. He is ostensibly being tasked with Aaron Gordon, right? And this is a hard one. This isn't a Zion-based issue necessarily, as much as it is just a defensive communication issue for the Pelicans, right? And this guy's just really hard. He's really hard to manage. Nikola Jokic being able to shoot threes here from above the break, being able to cut back door, being able to do different things. But I feel like nobody's talking here. Like, Brandon Ingram is flat-footed. Zion Williamson here is flat-footed. This is the best player in the NBA, point blank. And you have guys double screening for him to get him the ball. Somebody needs to aggressively get over the top here outside of Jonas because they are setting a double screen onto Jonas. This is essentially like a stagger action to get Nikola Jokic the ball. So they're coming here, they're screening Jonas to try and get this guy loose, the best player in the NBA. And we're, even as this ball is going to Nikola Jokic, we're backing up and we're flat-footed in drop. Again, like this is one where to me, I just don't really know what the scheme is here. It seems like they're just completely relying on Jonas to fight over the top. It doesn't feel like this is one where you have to peel switch it, I think. There's no communication in terms of switching. There's no communication any which way it feels like. I don't see anybody really talking here. I can't tell if Jonas is saying something like go, go, go. But this can't happen. These dudes can't be backing up, can't be flat-footed. As this ball is being caught by the best player in the NBA. They get lucky. Zion eventually comes out, but like you can't give Nikola Jokic a wide open three-pointer from the top of the key. That just seems completely crazy to me. This next one here. This ended up being an entry pass into Zion at the elbow. And look at this space. This is great. This is something the Pelicans have done really, really well throughout the course of the season, is getting Zion at the elbow in space, isolating one help defender here into making a decision on what to do. Having these guys above the break, having them out of potential help situations. This is a really hard guard. This is a really hard guard because for as much as I think that there are a little bit of issues, and we'll talk about that here too, right? In terms of Zion's lift, I think his speed has generally been there. Like he gets an angle on Aaron Gordon here. And Jokic kind of decides to stunt, right? Like he takes this little half step here, I think, to try and convince Zion to try and hit this kick out to Jonas in the corner, but he never comes and helps. He just relies on Aaron Gordon to be able to make this play. And Aaron does a pretty good job staying big. But to me, this is like the prime example, one of two prime examples of Zion just right now not having the lift and the explosiveness vertically that he has had previously throughout the course of his career, right? So Zion here, this is one that I feel like he would finish. If you gave this guy an angle, typically, it was curtains. I feel like he would jump longer. I don't think the takeoff point has changed that much for Zion, honestly. Like I feel like that used to be where he would take off. But I just feel like the ability to stay higher in the air longer has changed for Zion so far earlier in the season. And that's like a below the rim difficult finish for Zion. That's a tough finish for anybody in the NBA against Aaron Gordon. When your takeoff point is that far away, you can still see Zion Williamson is still one of the most athletic players in the NBA in terms of combining power, speed, strength, ability to go through guys. But there are levels to it. He used to be by far the biggest advantage creator in circumstances like this in the NBA. Right now, in terms of deriving rim pressure, I don't quite know that that's there. I don't quite know that that's there, which makes it a little bit tougher. To me, this is a situation where the spacing is right. Like you can't look at the spacing on this one and go, oh yeah, that's a problem. Like there are no bodies here that are coming to help. This is one-on-one, mano-a-mano, Zion against Aaron Gordon with like a stunt help on Nikola Jokic, right? These are the ones that Zion used to finish in his sleep. And he finishes a lot of them in this game, to be clear. But That's the difference between being a 61% finisher throughout the course of his career at the basket versus 49% right now. This next one here, Dyson Daniels going to bring the ball up the court, and then we're going to see Zion come up. And again, this is a prime example of the gravity that Zion brings in transition being such a freight train, right? So watch this here. They're communicating in terms of how they have to guard this, right? Typically, what I think Zeke Naji wants to have happened here is Zeke wants to pick up his man, who is Larry Nance. I think they would love for Aaron Gordon to be able to pick up Zion, and they would love for, I think that's Contavious Caldwell Pope or Peyton Watson, maybe. I think that might be Peyton Watson, to be able to fly out to Jordan Hawkins, or for, I think that's Julian Strawther, to be able to fly out to Jordan Hawkins. But it's hard to pick up guys in transition. This is difficult stuff. This is the NBA. It's hard. You have to scramble in transition. You have to find matchups that are advantageous for you defensively. What Zeke Naji does here is he peels off. He makes the right decision. Okay, I'm going to go guard Zion. Good job picking up in transition. But because Zion is who he is in transition, look at Aaron Gordon here. Aaron Gordon is looking right at Zion. This is an elite shooter in the corner here. And Aaron Gordon does not have his eyes on him. And he is pretty far off of him right now, right? This is a long closeout to get all the way out to a great shooter, especially one with a quick release like Jordan Hawkins. Zion, if you can look at where he's looking here, I actually think he's looking at Aaron Gordon here to see what's going on, to see where the help is going to be. And he hits the kick out. Jordan Hawkins cans the three. That's gravity. That's what being Zion Williamson and being able to get all the way to the rim means in many, many ways. So next one here. This is the other prime example, I think, of Zion's lift just not being there right now. I know that Aaron Gordon is one of the best jumpers in the NBA. He is a nuclear vertical athlete. When was the last time you saw somebody out high point Zion Williamson that was around, within an inch or two of Zion Williamson's size? Doesn't really happen, right? This ball goes off Aaron Gordon. Like, this is a ball that's going that way. It's going back the way of being the Pelicans' ball because Gordon's the last one to hit this. It's fine. Like, the ultimate result here is that the rebound is essentially the Pelicans and they get the ball. But I think this is kind of the prime example of what I'm talking about here. Aaron Gordon is out high pointing Zion Williamson for this ball here. And again, very, very few guys that can do this even now if we say that Zion Williamson has just like a little bit less pop than what he's had recently. It takes Aaron Gordon to be able to do this, but that's the margins that Zion has to live on, right? The margin of error for Zion athletically is enormous in terms of being a great productive player, but in terms of being like one of the 5 best players in the league, which is what I think all of us coming into the NBA hoped that Zion could become. This is the difference between that. This is, again, to me, the biggest place this shows up is in the finishing at the rim, where he's shooting 49% at the rim as opposed to 61% at the rim, which is his career average. Next one here. Zion on the tape here. Zion trailing here. Going to catch the ball. And then we're just isolating, right? trying to get to the rim. He finishes. But what I want to call out here is a beautiful action here that the Pelicans have run and that they run a couple of times throughout the game, to be honest. And I want to call out what's happening here on the backside with Larry Nance, too. So, a lot of my favorite actions that the Pelicans have run over the years actually occurred with Stan Van Gundy when he was there and JJ Redick was there. Actually, they used to run this really fun 2-man game where JJ was the screener for Zion Williamson playing point guard, right? And then he'd either ghost it, he'd make contact, whatever you want to do. With Jordan Hawkins, right? Again, not a, career 40% 3-point shooter in his 15th year in the NBA like JJ was at that point, but a pretty damn good shooter who has every bit of potential to be a great player and an elite level shooter in the NBA at some point. And already has showcased gravity throughout the course of this game. So what are you running? You're going to run a beautiful little, we're going to kind of stunt like we're going to screen and we're going to ghost it, right? And we're going to go out to the wing here. I want you to peep Larry Nance. Larry Nance is here, hanging out. Ends up not being a screen, but keep him in mind for a later clip. Ends up being a ghost because Matt Ryan has come through. And then you're going to see an exchange on the back end. We're going to try and confuse these two. I believe that is Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther, maybe, on the back end in terms of who the low man is, who's the help man. Might be KCP. They end up working through it. They get a bunch of bodies on Zion, right? Aaron Gordon does a great job staying in front of Zion here. They help way off. Zeke Naji crashes in, right, to try and be a help. This is an example of where I think that there are differing types of athleticism, right? Maybe the biggest, most important skill, even beyond the leaping that Zion brings to the table, is the second jump, right? He still gets off of his feet to a specific height quite quickly. And it's really, really hard for defensive rebounders to stop that. He is looking at the ball. He's finding it. Look at how bent his knees are, right? He's getting ready to go up and go get this thing. He goes up, he finds it, gets the second jump, gets the bucket. But I love the action. I love the set from the Pelicans. I love the body control from Zion. I love the second jump here. That's what he's still capable of. He's a great player. He's still, in terms of impact, probably a top 20, 25 player in the league right now. Like, he has been really, really good. Maybe top 30 when you account for some of the defense stuff. But like, he is still like a great player that's like a borderline all-star right now, even at this stage of where he's at physically. He's so good as a passer, playmaker, rebounder, offensively specifically, driver, everything like that. He's been really, really good this season, but there are levels to greatness in the NBA, and we're going to keep talking through some of the issues right now. This is another defensive possession where what Zion is doing is just kind of driving me crazy to some level. This is just not good enough, I think, to me, given that he is on Aaron Gordon here and that Matt Ryan is on Michael Porter. This probably just needs to be a help. He needs to not be flat-footed. Again, like, he's just not really active. He's very clearly ball watching. I don't think he really knows that Julian Strawther is like coming through this play like this until it's too late. Just not enough awareness in my view. He's like late reacting to the Aaron Gordon cut and then just zero help on the backside, right? Like, you'd love to see Zion come over here, be available rotationally. He's not guarding a shooter in Aaron Gordon, right? He needs to be available rotationally here, I think. On this drive, he's not easy. Nikola Jokic layup. Yeah, still a bit of a ways to go for Zion defensively. This wasn't an awesome game on that end. I know the Nuggets put you through a lot of different difficult actions, but not quite what we're looking for from him yet. This one, this is fun. You're going to see again just a quick little Larry Nance slip, right? They get Zion the ball, Semi on the move. We're going to get Nance a little mini screen and go. The Nuggets are going to put 2 on the ball here with Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic. This has to be a weak side help. Julian Shaw there. I love Larry Nance. Larry Nance is one of my favorite role players in the NBA. Is a big. He just always sees everything. He knows what's going on the court. You can see already he's looking weak side here. He's looking at Jordan Hawkins. He knows where the help is coming from with Julian Strawther coming over to him. He's just prepared. He's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. He hits this kick out here to Hawkins, ends up being money. Again, this is the effective gravity from Zion Williamson, right? Because Zion Williamson is such a beast. You put 2 on the ball, right? You're putting 2 on the ball here to try and stop him from getting into the paint, and it leads to a hockey pass, a hockey assist for Williamson. Great pass by Larry Nance. Great stuff here from the Pelicans. That's the way their offense can run. And you can imagine what that looks like when you get real shooters back, right? Okay, so this next one here. This is actually a pretty good defensive possession from Zion, if I remember correctly. Does a good job. Physically gets his hands on the ball. Stands up Aaron Gordon. I think Zion's actually been okay on the ball so far this season. It's just the off-ball stuff that he just needs to be more aware and impactful with. On the ball, he is capable of standing up guys like Aaron Gordon, capable of stopping their drives in their tracks, has obviously fantastic hand-eye coordination, does a great job here, walling up, stopping Aaron Gordon. Next one. So remember the one that I showed you last time with the Jordan Hawkins ghost screen. Same exact action here, right? We've got Matt Ryan running baseline, opposite corner. We're going to have Jordan Hawkins coming up here to ghost, and we're going to have Zion driving here. But watch the counter, the little action that they've put on the backside of this. You have Larry Nance screen instead of flare for Jordan Hawkins. This is beautiful offense flowing into itself, right? This is absolutely fantastic stuff from Willie Green. I love the way that they set this up earlier in the game. As you can see, the Pelicans are up 15. This gets them up 18. This is just such beautiful offense. The way that you're setting this up earlier in the game, right? Here's the ghost. And then you're going to see Larry Nance come up. He's going to set the flare. And instead of stopping on the wing, you're going to see Jordan Hawkins run to the corner. This is beautiful stuff from the Pelicans. So just again, the way this play sets up, let's draw it up real quick. So Hawkins is going to come up. He's going to set this flare or this little ghost action, and then he's going to run. And instead of going to the wing like he did last time, you're going to have Larry Nance come to the corner or come to the elbow here, set a flare screen, and Hawkins is going to go all the way to the corner here. Matt Ryan filtering through the play literally sets up exactly the same way the last one did. You have a little exchange on the backside with Dyson Daniels. It's beautiful. This is a absolutely beautiful action. A beautiful flare set from the Pelicans. Next one here. This is just Zion being too strong. Michael Porter at the basket. He gets this ball. This is just power, right? Like this is power. Again, I don't think he's getting much lift, right? The other thing is here, when Zion Williamson used to jump stop, and I know this ball goes in, I don't want to harp on this, right? But when Zion Williamson used to jump stop, it used to be like a long jumper was jump stopping out there. Like it would go from like here to like all the way like over here. It was ridiculous what this dude was capable of physically when he first came into the league and when he was at Duke. Here, it's not quite a jump stop, right? But I think he's not jump stopping there because he isn't quite as vertically and explosively doesn't have as much pop right now as he's had. Still goes up through Michael Porter, finishes strong as hell. Zion's still a great dude. He's still a great, great player in the NBA. He's unbelievable. This next one here, we got Peyton Watson on Zion Williamson now. This is a matchup that the Pelicans won. With all due respect to Peyton Watson, who has had a fantastic season and is a guy I'm probably going to have to break down on the channel soon because he's been really, really good for the Nuggets. He's just not strong enough to stop Zion from getting to his spots. Like there's a difference between him and Aaron Gordon just in terms of what they're able to stop through their chest, right? So this one, you're going to see, believe that's Brandon Ingram. This is a horn set. Not really. This is Jones coming in and they're running like a little rub action, it looks like. For Brandon Ingram to get to the wing, we're going to have Herb Jones run through the play. So what is this? Little rub action for Brandon Ingram in case there needs to be a bailout. And then we're going to filter through the opposite corner, if I remember correctly, of the drive. Same side corner of the drive. If you let Zion get that deep into the lane, he actually just straight turns the corner here on Peyton Watson. But again, to me, it's like the ability to slide your feet in front of Zion, get your chest in front of him. If you can't do that, it's going to be tough. That's why this guy is such a mismatch nightmare. He really is. He still maintains that ability with his strength to be a mismatch nightmare. But when you put Aaron Gordon on him, it's a little bit harder, right? Next one. Again, Pelicans still up by 12, like doing a great job in this game. That is a monster screen. I just kind of wanted to put that on there because holy shit, is that a great screen? So we're running a stagger here. Running a stagger here for Jordan Hawkins to come up. And around. Potentially set a screen. Instead, he just decides to filter through. And then you have Zion coming up on the backside as the screener. It's not a double drag, but he just absolutely drills Peyton Watson here. This is a great screen. That is a fantastic screen. And that's once he does that, once he gets that kind of contact on that screen and just essentially takes Peyton Watson out of the play. I mean, it's kind of shooting fish in a barrel at that point. Like you can either pull up like that from Brandon, depending on if Aaron goes up here and decides to play out of the drop once he realizes the Peyton isn't going to be able to get over the top of the screen. If that happens, this is a lob to Zion. Instead, Aaron Gordon stays back. Smart play. Makes Brandon shoot the mid-range jumper, but Brandon's going to knock that down most of the time. Next one here. This is one where I put this on because it's an example of the small ball Zion at the 5 lineups that really, really are intriguing, especially because of the way that they space out defenses, right? So like this last possession is Zion at the 5, right? You've got Brandon Ingram essentially acting as the de facto 1, Jordan Hawkins is the 2, Matt Ryan is the 3, Herb Jones is the 4, and Zion is the 5. And you can see that when you can get that much spacing out there with both Matt Ryan and Jordan Hawkins, hard to guard. Really, really hard to guard these guys. But this is the downside of that with Zion. And again, I know Nikola Jokic is a different dude. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the league. If we're holding everybody to the Jokic standard in terms of trying to stop him defensively, we're going to be here all day. But Nikola Jokic is the guy you have to go through if you want to win the West right now. And that's why this is tough. So here, Zion does honestly as well as he can do on this play. Truly, he does every single thing that he can do well here defensively. This is not Zion Williamson's fault that he is smaller than Nikola Jokic. Look at this. Gets his body on him, turns his body to maintain that contact. He stays connected with Jokic as they set this little screen. This little down screen here to get Jokic at the top. Jokic just stays big, keeps the ball above Zion's head. And there's literally nothing Zion can do about that. Literally not a thing in the world that Zion Williamson can do to stop this. He does everything he can. But because Jokic is Jokic, and I'm sure that like principles wise, when Jokic gets the ball at the elbow, Pelicans are like, okay, we're going to help over on him. And Aaron Gordon has like fantastic chemistry with Jokic. This is a cut. It's an easy cut. You know, you'd love to see Brandon Ingram like full scale rotate over here. I think he actually does a pretty good job getting back in the play, if I remember correctly. No, that's not. Yeah, Brandon needs to be there. That's my bad. Brandon needs to be there. Yeah, this is one where Brandon Ingram just like really needs to be rotating over and helping here as the weak side low man on this cut. Needs to be there now. Frankly, this ball has been released. He's looking at the ball having been released. You can see his eyes like he's looking in that direction. He should be seeing this. Just needs to be rotating over early, especially guarding Peyton Watson. Got to be one where Brandon's there. He's not helping. Yeah, that's a tough one. But Zion does everything there. That's the downside of going small with Zion at the 5 is nothing you can do against that guy. And look, there's probably nothing you can do against Nikola Jokic as it is. But you really can't do anything if you have a small guy on him because he will just pass over the top. And it's like shooting fish in a barrel for that guy. Next one here. They run like a 4-5 ball screen action. Jonas just needs to make this, but again, you run these big ball screens where they're going to go under Zion and you have an expert screener, which by the way, this is such a good screen by Jonas. Okay, I'm kind of ghosting it. I'm starting my roll early. I'm slipping. I'm going down kind of slowly here. I'm trying to force Jokic to step up. Dark arts of the ball screen by Jonas there. Fantastic. They end up getting exactly what they want. They get 2 on the ball, right? Zion recognizes it. Really, really just a terrific passer. Zion Williamson. He gets it there. And this is let's call out a great play when we see it, right? This is tremendous from Aaron Gordon. This is absolutely tremendous rotating down to get this block. Just such an underrated defender. Like he is so terrific on that end. Really makes everything go for the Nuggets on that end among other guys. I think Michael Porter's been quite good defensively this year as well. But I mean, Jonas got to finish that, right? It's a good read by Zion. It's a good play. Next one here. Zion's the trailer. And again, what are we doing? Looks kind of similar in structure to that ghost action where Jordan Hawkins would come through, ghost it, and go to the wing. But instead, what do we see? This time Hawkins actually sets. He sets the screen, right? How do they defend it? They set up like they're going to put two on the ball. 1, 2. So Zion rejects it, seeing that he's got all this space here. Again, Zion gets to places quicker when he can get the ball into his left hand. I think this is probably an advanced scouting decision from the Nuggets, where if someone is setting a screen for Zion to get downhill with his left hand, you put two on the ball. If it's on the right hand, maybe you don't. But you're trying to force Zion to the right, basically, is the goal. Just not quite as comfortable ball handler with his right. It's okay. He's such a beast with the left that it's just really hard to stop him from getting to it. They do a great job here. But again, look at the takeoff point. This is good defense from the Nuggets, good defensive strategy from the Nuggets to force Zion right. Good help by the Nuggets. You can see Michael Porter Jr. digging in. You've got Jokic rotating over. You've got Aaron Gordon just staying in front. Again, it's tough to go through Aaron Gordon's chest. He's a big physical dude. But I think Zion used to go through guys like that a little bit easier, even than Aaron Gordon. Used to have to guard Zion with like legit bigs, and I'm not sure you have to right now for him to be like a 50 to 55% finisher at the basket. It's a tough takeoff point. Like, it's really, really hard, right? Again, he's used to being able to do that because he used to get farther with his leaps and he used to get higher with his leaps. But that's a hard takeoff point. He's taken off 8 feet from the basket, 7 feet from the basket, maybe. It's going to be a tough finish for most guys, especially when you're shooting below the rim. Like, rim's here. Just doesn't quite have the lift that he's had previously. Hopefully he gets it back throughout the course of the season, but I think that's why we're seeing some of the finishing issues right now. Again, you've got Peyton Watson here. This looks kind of like a pseudo split cut action. It's a little bit higher than what you typically run the split cuts off of with Zion. But what do I mean by that? You're going to see the entry pass here into Zion. You're going to go set a screen. And then Matt Ryan's going to come around as a great shooter. Let's try and go get something. Actually, Matt Ryan sets a screen first, which is interesting. Sets a little flare for Kyra Lewis to go around. And then comes up for the split. Instead, Zion just gets to the rim. Again, though. I want you to pay special attention to where Nikola Jokic is. This positioning by Jokic is deliberate. Cody Zeller can't, like, they're going to be totally good if Cody Zeller gets a corner three. Like, they definitely do not care about that. But choosing to be here as opposed to even like here is a very deliberate decision by Nikola Jokic to try and dissuade Zion Williamson from driving left here. Instead, he has to drive right. And again, it's a below the rim finish. He gets by Peyton Watson here. Like, look at how much separation Zion creates with his shoulders. He is still strong as hell, man. Look at that bump. That's legal. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And he moves Peyton Watson all the way back. Respect to Peyton for continuing to fight through it. In the contest. Again, he's just about as high as Zion is, even after that bump. To me, Zion would typically be on this inside hand finish, pretty damn close to rim high, but he's not here. This is a tougher inside hand finish than what I think we've seen from Zion in the past. He ends up missing it. Just not quite as much lift to make those shots a little bit easier. What we've seen, Zion's not a guy that has like this immense amount of length. It's always been vertical pop that gets him there. This next one, trailer for Zion. Again, Peyton Watson. We're running like a empty middle ball screen. And now we're isolating Zion onto Peyton Watson. Again, great work by Peyton Watson just to hold his ground as much as he can against Zion. We're trying to get... It's a fascinating way to guard that. If you're Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, you're putting 2 on the ball, going for the steal, and then just assuming you're... I mean, this is just, again, a really good read by Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, knowing who Matt Ryan is. That's always going to be a pop there. He knows that he can go for the steal and just get to where Matt Ryan's going to go anyway and give that little bit of time for Peyton Watson to get into the play here and be able to load up. Again, Zion puts his shoulder into Peyton Watson. That is not the easiest finish. Like, that's a hook shot from outside the restricted area there. Again, it just feels a little bit harder for Zion to get to where to get to his spots right now, right? Just feels that little small amount harder. These are very, very small margins, but these margins matter in the NBA. Being able to get deeper position, being able to, step through in some way, being able to make this play and make this just a little bit closer than what it's been. This isn't the easiest shot in the world. Ends up being a miss. As you can see, the Nuggets have turned this game around. Pelicans have not made a field goal in 5 minutes. Oh my God, is that the worst circle job I have ever done in my life? No Pelicans field goals for 5 minutes. That doesn't change on this possession. Zion with the bench unit. It's tough. Next possession down the court, though, changes. Zion, quick dunk, gets out in transition, right? Good work. Jokic just kind of flings this one away, pokes it away, gets above the rim, finishes, but finally breaks that little 5-minute action. That's why I put that on there. Again, freight train in transition, right? Really tough to deal with. Even poking this ball away. I mean, this is hard for a guy that's like 280 pounds, whatever Zion Williamson is. He's like tightrope in here. Like he's a wide receiver on the sidelines of an NFL court or a running back, like trying to stay in bounds. It's really good work. Really, really good work. Next one. 9-point game now for Denver. As you can see, kind of the same action again as what they've been running previously. Matt Ryan in the corner. You're going to set this little exchange here. Ryan's going to come up. He's going to go screen it, and then he's going to go. You're going to see Larry Nance set the screen here. You're going to see, I think that's Dyson Daniels, exchange it. And then Matt Ryan's going to filter deeper here. Actually, Dyson never goes to the opposite corner there, which is interesting. because Kyra decides to stay there. Kyra probably needs to lift here. That's probably Dyson recognizing that Kyra didn't lift. Still has Matt Ryan wide open here. Doesn't matter though. He just decides to drop step, finish. Again, they've been running a lot of these fun little actions just to get Zion in space, to get him at these elbow areas where he can really create. When you're Zion and you are as strong as you are and as physical as you are, you get him into this area where it's hard to help because you've got this shooter here. And can you imagine if instead of Dyson Daniels, it's Trey Murphy here, where he's camping out in the corner, right? That would be the replacement. Or maybe it's Trey Murphy here and Jordan Hawkins here. It's, CJ McCollum here. They're missing a lot of shooters right now. Two of their four best players are out. That makes it tough. That's why you see all these dudes. You see Christian Watson. He's going to make a play at the ball, or Christian Brown. I'm sorry. That's Colin Gillespie there. That's Christian Brown here. He's going to make a play at the ball and dig down. You're going to see Colin Gillespie fly up from the corner. Even Peyton Watson's here. You've got a foot in the paint here from Julian Strother. Basically, everybody on the court right now is a foot in the paint. Can't do that if this guy's Trey Murphy, this guy's CJ McCollum. And all due respect to these guys on the court, they just aren't, top 60 players in the league like those two guys are. Next one here, inbounds to Zion. Again, very similar action, right? But instead of driving, Zion lets it play through, right? So again, corner man coming up, screen, Ryan going there. Instead, they filter through to the next part of the play, which is a screen here by Larry Nance for Zion to get downhill with his left. Second jump ability from Zion, but this didn't look, as explosive and physical as what you typically see from Zion, right? Kind of loses the ball here. This is a good help from Aaron Gordon. Again, just want to note impact of spacing, right? A lot of dudes here in the paint. That's CJ there, probably pretty tough to do this. That's Trey Murphy there, probably pretty tough to do this. They get the ball. Again, second jump, Zion makes up for it. Doesn't look as clean as what it typically is right now for Zion around the basket. Next one here. Again, just it's hard. It's harder right now for Zion than what it typically is. This one, kind of a wrinkle on the same kind of action as what you've seen throughout this. You're going to set a ghost and then go by Matt Ryan, trying to just get Zion in some space, force some confusion. Impact of spacing. Again, that's why I put this on here. And I feel like I'm shitting on Kyra Lewis. I really don't mean to. But CJ McCollum in the corner there, you really, really, really can't be foot in the paint here, same side. If you're calling Gillespie, if you are, it's going to be tough. This is the impact of spacing here again. Just hard. It's hard for the Pelicans right now. Aaron Gordon knows that he has help there. So you can kind of overplay to this side a little bit. Again, you've got one, two, three, four guys in the paint. Shout out Larry Nance going to get that ball, but it's not exactly fantastic process, right? Just shooting. They need to get their guys back. Once they get their guys back, it's going to be easier for Zion, certainly, even accounting for some of the things that we've seen so far. Next one here is Zion out in transition again. What are we seeing here? We're seeing the impact of his gravity in transition. Yet again, Zion. Colin Gillespie knows that you really don't want to, for as much as Aaron Gordon is a great, capable one-on-one defender on Zion, Zion's on the move here. You can't give him a one-on-one with all of this potential space for Zion to be able to create something. That's going to be a really, really tough ask, even for Aaron Gordon. So Colin Gillespie is helping here. You can see Peyton Watson's picking up Larry Nance. You've got Christian Brown. You've got Julian Strother picking up in transition. Colin Gillespie knows who he's, forced to guard here, right? He's like kind of peeking back. You can see like he's got kind of an eye there. He's trying to be available and help here just to make it so that Aaron Gordon has some help to stop him from getting to his left hand, right? But I mean, great shooter coming down the court. Money. It's tough. It's tough to guard Zion when he's in transition. Really, really tough to guard him, given how good of a passer he is. This one here, freight train in transition yet again. As you can see, he can really get moving. You get him downhill. I think he still has the speed. I think he still has the power. It's just the vertical lift right now that he's missing a little bit of. And that's okay. Hopefully it'll come back as the season goes on. You get him the ball downhill like this, there is no way Nikola Jokic is going to be able to stay in front of him. Gets to the basket, finishes. And kind of a professional screen there from Brandon Ingram late in this game. Looks like there's about 6 minutes left. Nuggets up 9 here. Trailer. He gets the ball, brings it up the court, starts the action. I would love to see them run just like a little bit more two-man game between these two. You just have to pay so much attention to Brandon Ingram because of how capable he is on the ball. I think there's room to do it. I would rather run it with guys like Jordan Hawkins out there because Jordan Hawkins is a truly elite shooter, but you should have wrinkles like this with Brandon Ingram being the screener. Really good screener, acts like he's trying to get some space, kind of forces the peel switch here, which is the most important piece of it, right? So this is just super smart professional work here from Brandon Ingram, right? He's setting this screen, and it's essentially like a little clear out screen where he is trying to make Aaron Gordon stay attached to him and force this peel switch, which is what the Pelicans don't want to do because, we can talk all about Kentavious Caldwell-Pope also being a great defender. He's skinny, right? He can't do anything about that. I mean, look at this dude. You get downhill. I mean, Kentavious knows this. Like, he can't do anything about that. Just really, really good work from Brandon Ingram there. It's a simple action. Really, really sharp. Love to see it. Next one here goes before the screen gets set. I'm pretty sure Aaron is expecting this. I would imagine that Nikola Jokic called this out to Aaron Gordon. Hey, screen left, screen left. Trying to look at Aaron Gordon's footwork here. Actually looks like Zion just beats him off the bounce here. which is good work by Zion. Gets like a little rub there by Jordan Hawkins. This is actually really, really smart from Jordan Hawkins. I didn't pick this up the first time on film. This is really, really sharp from Jordan Hawkins here. He kind of stunts in here and then goes out, forcing his defender, I think it's Reggie Jackson, to step in here. And it ends up being a de facto screen on Aaron Gordon. That's really sharp by Jordan Hawkins. Yeah, it's Jordan Hawkins. Really, really sharp. Creates the screen. Really good. Second to last one here. Zion. Downhill in transition. Team's down 14 with 2 minutes left. Trying to make something happen quick. Essentially doubling him here. Take off points pretty far, but this is one where you're not complaining about lack of athleticism or anything. This is just a tough play. Aaron Gordon kind of lets him get the 2. Final one here. And again, we're going to get a Zion vision play, right? This is the same one as last time again. Let's get back to this last one here. Looks like it's supposed to be a Spain pick and roll that Zion just goes early on because he thinks he has the space to the right, right? So you've got, it looks like Larry Nance coming up there, and then you've got Jordan Hawkins setting this back screen and then probably going to the top of the key there. But instead of letting this develop, Zion's just like, well, I've got Brandon Ingram weak side. I've got all this space here. I'm just going to go. Fair enough, given that it's a 15-point game with a minute and a half left. He sees Michael Porter Jr. kind of ball watching a little bit, I think, when he turns his shoulder here. Yep. You can see jump passes, hits the corner kick out. It's the right read. Good play. That's it. That's what we got for Zion Williamson. I think he's still getting back into the swing of things. I think that, as you can see, the lack of CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy from a spacing perspective is probably hindering him around the basket a little bit. Also, he probably needs to be a little bit more available defensively, but I love some of the actions that they're running. I love that the Pelicans, in my opinion, seem to be making things very simple for Zion. They're running these ghost actions with great shooters. They're running actions just to try and get him the ball at the elbow into space. And these are actions that I think are going to look a lot more lethal when you put CJ McCollum back in, when you put Trey Murphy back in. But right now, it's a little bit harder for Zion because of that lack of space. But it's also a little bit harder, I think, because of the different lift that he has right now. My guess is he hopefully stays healthy throughout the course of the season. And as he continues to work his way back into game shape, look, I know that, people like to complain about Zion Williamson's weight. It's hard when you've been on the sidelines for as long as Zion was. And when you're in a circumstance where you're trying to get back into the swing of things, there's a difference between like playing games night after night after night in the NBA in shape and knowing what that takes and remembering like what that is, and entering the season in shape. Like he could have entered the season in shape, but when you're that big and you're that physical and it takes that much, you take that much punishment around the basket because you're the one initiating the contact, right? It does take a minute sometimes, I think, to get back into the swing of things in terms of having that game shape, having that lift again. Frankly, like maybe he will end up just getting a little bit skinnier throughout the course of the season. Generally, college players, NBA players, they do lose weight throughout the course of a season just because you're not lifting as much. You're not, it's just a little bit different. It's such a rigorous schedule that it's hard for guys. So I would expect that Zion will get better, but this is something that we need to track throughout the course of the season now, because 49% around the basket is a tangible difference from the 61% that Zion Williamson has shot throughout the course of the 2022-23 season and the 2020-21 season where he was all NBA. So thanks for watching this. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on the video. I appreciate you guys staying till the end. Let me know in the comments who you would like to see next. Until next time, we'll talk soon.